Hi everyone, my name is Tyler Bisbee with Cal Baptist University. This is Kinesiology 480, and today we'll be creating a video on going over the assessing of flexibility. And this will be in the shoulder, in the elbow, the hip, the knee, and the ankle. My wife Sarah will be volunteering with doing the flexibility test. We'll be doing this with a goniometer as well as our yardstick in order to do the sit and reach test. Alright, so we'll be looking and assessing our flexibility, and we'll be starting at the shoulder. The shoulder is going to have 4 tests that we're going to perform. We're going to start with extension, and then we'll move on to flexion, abduction, and then lateral medial rotation. So to start with extension, we're going to have our patient or our athlete laying prone, and we're going to be using our tool up against the body. Make sure that the elbow is slightly flexed, and then we'll have the palm of the hand facing towards the body. As we line up at the acromion process, we're going to also line the tool up against the mid-axillary line, and then we're going to have the patient bring their arm up at the shoulder as far as they can. So Sarah, go ahead and raise your arm as high as you can, and then stop. And then we'll bring our angle up, and we're looking at 52 degrees. Go ahead and come down. Alright, so now we're going to be measuring flexion, and I've had Sarah move from the prone position to the supine position. Our axis is still going to be taking place at the acromion process, and then our tool is going to have the arm that doesn't move at the humerus or at the mid-axillary line. And I'm going to go ahead and have my patient with the palm facing the body, thumb up, and then we're going to have her flex the arm as much as possible. So Sarah, go ahead and flex your arm as far as you can go. Good. Good. We are at, all right, and we have 180 degrees of range of motion on flexion. All right, so now we're going to be looking at abduction in the shoulder. Abduction is still going to be taking place at the acromion process, but this time we're going to be lining up over the top of the arm, hand facing anteriorly with the palm facing up, and then we're going to have some lateral rotation at the humerus. Patient is going to go ahead and abduct the arm, moving outward as far as possible. So Sarah, go ahead and abduct as far as you can go. Good. So from there, we're going to do our measurement. And we are at 180 degrees. Alright, so now we're going to be looking at internal and external, or medial and lateral rotation of our shoulder. And as we do this, we want to get the patient's arm abducted 90 degrees. And then we want to have the forearm perpendicular to the ground. We want to have the palm facing the body, thumb up, in kind of a mid-supination or pronation. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the olecranon process at our starting point. And we're going to go ahead and have the patient give us internal rotation, moving down. So Sarah, go as far as you can, internal rotation. Good. And then we're going to drop our scale. And we're at about 95 degrees. Go ahead and come back to the starting position. It's important that we have a pad underneath the arm to make sure that the humerus is level with our acromion process. All right, so we're going to do our external rotation or our lateral rotation. So you're going to go back this way as far as you can. Go ahead and start. Good. And we're going to drop down our degrees here. And we are at 90 degrees here. Back up to neutral. All right, so now we're going to be doing flexion at the elbow. Patient is still going to be laying supine, arm close to the body. We also want to have a pad down underneath the distal end of the humerus. Hand is supposed to be fully supinated, and then we're going to be at the lateral epicondyle of the humerus to measure, and we're going to be moving with the forearm as far as she can for flexion of the elbow. So go ahead and flex your elbow, sir. Good. I'm going to drop this down here, and we are at 85 degrees. Good. All right, we're at the pelvis now, and we're going to go ahead and start checking our hips. Since our patient is already lying supine, we're going to check flexion of the hip first. We're going to get our meter hooked up against the greater trochanter of the femur, and then the patient's going to be lifting with some flexion at the knee and going to get a range of motion at the hip for flexion. So Sarah, go ahead and flex your hip. Good. Good. So we are at 40 degrees. Go ahead and come down. All right, so now we're going to be looking at hip extension, and in order to get hip extension, I place the patient in the pronated position, and we want to make sure that we're pronated so that we're using that same leg. So Sarah, we're going to go ahead and line this up with the greater trochanter. Have it the right way here. All right, and go ahead and extend your leg. Good. And we're looking at 80 degrees. Go ahead and drop. All right, so now that we got our patient back in the supine position with the right leg still being used, we're going to be checking abduction. I've scooted the patient over so that we're able to have abduction without her leg falling off the table. And what we're going to do is we're going to set our tool up right about the superior anterior iliac crest, midline to the patella, and we're going to have the patient go ahead and abduct the leg as far as you can go. That's as far. Range of motion comes down, and we are looking at 45 degrees. All right, so we've done abduction, so now we're going to go to adduction, adduction. So Sarah, we're going to be at the superior anterior portion of the iliac crest, lined up midline with patella, and you're going to adduct your leg as far as you can. Go ahead and do that. Good. And then we'll bring that around, and we are looking at 60 degrees. Go ahead and come back. Patient sitting straight up now. We're going to be coming over a solid surface, pad underneath the femur. We're going to line our tool up across the tibia using the crest of the tibia and the malleoli as reference points. And then we want to make sure that the opposite leg's out of the way so that she has full range of motion. So Sarah, go ahead and do an external rotation by moving your leg this way, as far as you can go. Good. And we are at 30 degrees. Go ahead and come back to neutral. And now we're going to get our internal rotation by moving your leg this way. So go ahead and do that now, as far as you can go. And here we are at around 50, sorry, I came a little too far. We are at about 54 degrees. Come back. Good. All right, so now we're working on their knee joint, and we'll be checking flexion at the knee. What we're going to do is have the patient lift at the knee, flex. It's going to also flex our hip as her foot comes back to give us full flexion. So Sarah, go ahead and do that. Flex as far as you can go with your knee. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use that femoral epicondyle to line our tool up. We're going to line the stationary arm against the midline of the femur using the greater trochanter for reference. And then we're also going to be moving the movable arm and using our lateral malleolus over here to give us our flexion degree. And right now we're looking at 56 degrees. Go ahead and relax. All right. All right, so patient's sitting again. We're going to be checking our ankle joint for plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. So we want to make sure we're flexed at the knee. Ankle wants to be neutral at 90 degrees as we start this. We're going to be using our tool at the lateral malleolus here on the lateral aspect. And then we're going to be using the fibula, the midline of the fibula, for our stationary arm. And then as the patient puts the the foot down into plantar flexion, flex it as far as you can, like you're stepping on the gas pedal, as far as you can. Then we're gonna move our arm down, and we want to be about at the 5th metatarsal, midline of the 5th metatarsal. And right now we are at 74 degrees. Yeah, we went across, right? So we are at, 165 degrees. All right, so we got our plantar flexion. Now we're going to be working our dorsiflexion. So same thing, tool's going to be at the lateral malleolus on the lateral aspect, using that stationary arm against the fibula. And then we're going to have our patient pull up with her toes as far as she can go. Come up as high as you can. And then move our stationary arm. That's going to be lined up with the 5th metatarsal. And we are looking at 75 degrees. All right, so we're going to be starting at our shoulder. We're looking for extension in the arm, so we're moving to the left side now. And we're going to be checking that extension. We'll be using the acromion process up here with our arm against the humerus. Sarah, go ahead and extend the arm as far as you can go. Good. And we're at 60 degrees. All right, so we're checking flexion of the left arm, and our flexion is going to be done with the non-moving arm down the mid-axillary line, lining up at the acromial process. Sarah, go ahead and flex your arm as far as you can go. Good. It looks like we're at 178 degrees. Go ahead, come back. All right, so our first time doing abduction with the left arm, lining up at the acromion process. We're running down the mid-sternum, and then we want to abduct out, palm facing in, thumb facing up. Go ahead and abduct the arm, sir, as far as you can go. Good. Bring our tool around. And we are at 160 degrees. First attempt on our left arm for internal-external rotation or medial and lateral rotation. Sarah, go ahead and let's move down and see how many degrees we can move. I'm lined up at, I'm at the electron process. Arm's coming down this way.
That's right.
Rotate it down. Go. Good. And we are at 90 degrees. Come back up. And let's go the other way. Go ahead and rotate. Good. And we are at 85 degrees. Good. Alright, so we're going to be checking flexion for the first time on the left arm. So my patient's going to be fully supinated at the forearm. Pad placed under the distal end of the humerus, lining up our stationary arm against the humerus. And then we're going to be following the radial head. So sir, go ahead and flex as far as you can. Good. Radial head is here. And we are at 26 degrees. Go ahead and relax. Good. Alright, so we're on our left side now. Patient laying supine. We are checking hip flexion for the first time on the left pelvic or the left hip. And so we're going to use our tool, line up with our imaginary pelvic midline, using the greater trochanter as reference. So with the left leg, we're going to go ahead and use our greater trochanter as reference. Non-movable arm is kind of wrapping up the mid-axillary line here with this this midline of the pelvis, imaginary pelvis. And then we're going to have our patient go ahead and flex at the hip. You can bend at the knee if you need to get the flexion of the hip. Good. And we are at 50 degrees. Good. Relax.
Oh.
All right, checking extension of the left leg now. Sarah, go ahead and extend. Using our greater trochanter as reference, running the stationary arm down the imaginary midline of the pelvis. Go ahead, sir. Extend as far as you can. Epicondyle of the femur is what we're using to reference our degrees. And we are looking at 20, I'm sorry, I need to come down that way. We are looking at 60 degrees. All right, so I've had my patient move over a little bit. We're going to be checking abduction and adduction of the hip bones. We're going to be using the superior anterior iliac crest here for our guidance. And what we want to do is reference to the patella with our non-moving arm here, and then have our patient go ahead and abduct. So go ahead and abduct your arm, your leg as far as you can. Out. Good. And we are at 32 degrees. Go ahead and come back. Good. And adduction now. In adduction. And we're adducting at 40 degrees. Come back. And relax. Good. Alright, so we're checking internal external rotation for the first time on our left leg. And we're going to have our stationary leg, or stationary arm of our tool perpendicular to the ground. Sarah's going to go ahead and do internal rotation, so move the leg that way, as far as you can. Using the tibia as reference at 28 degrees. Come back. And now go ahead and come this way, giving us external rotation as far as you can go. Good. And we are looking at 35 degrees. Come back. Good. Alright, so we need to take flexion at the knee on the left side for the first try. And what we're going to do is we're going to line up our tool. And we're going to be using the greater trochanter for our reference. Midline of the femur. Sarah, go ahead and flex your knee. Sorry, as far as you can go. And then we're going to be measuring with the movable arm on the lateral side with the fibula. And you are at 50%, or 50 degrees. Go ahead and relax. Good. 90-degree angle here. Alright, so we're going to line our tool up. Lateral malleolus here on the left leg, running up the side of the fibula here. Sarah, go ahead and push down like you're pushing on a gas pedal. We're going to get our plantar flexion first. And we are at 156 degrees. Come back to neutral. And then go ahead and pull up with your toes. Dorsiflexion here. Fifth metatarsal to help us out. And we are at 80 degrees. Go ahead and come back down. Good. Alright, so we're going to do extension for the second time of the shoulder of the right arm. We're going to be lining up the non-moving arm on the mid-axillary line, right at about the acromion process. Back out so you can see me. And then we're going to have extension. So Sarah, go ahead and extend. Reference points is the epicondyle, the humerus. So we're coming up midline there. And we are at 24 degrees. Come back down. Right, so now we're doing our second attempt on the right arm, checking flexion again. And what we're going to do is we're going to be at the acromion process. I'm lining my non-movable arm up at the mid-axillary line. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have the flexion. So go ahead and flex your arm. And we're going to be using the humerus's epicondyle, the lateral epicondyle, for where we're going to be measuring. And we are at 170 degrees. Alright, checking abduction of the right arm for the second time. Using the acromion process, following the midline of the sternum. And then what we're going to do is have our patient do her abduction. Palm facing in, thumb facing up. Go ahead and abduct, sir, as far as you can go. And we're at 174 degrees. Alright, so our second attempt on the shoulder, making our internal and external rotations. We're going to be lining up our non-moving arm at the olecranon process, and then our moving arm will follow the stylet of the ulna as it moves. So Sarah, we're going to go ahead and do our medial rotation, so go in. Make sure you can come see the tool, sir. Aiden. Go ahead and go. And we are at 84 degrees. Come back up. And then let's get our lateral. Go ahead and go. And we are at 90 degrees. Good. All right, so second attempt on our right arm for flexion. And we're going to go ahead and line up our stationary arm against the midline of the humerus. We're going to be following the radial head. Go ahead and flex, sir. Good. We're fully supinated at the forearm. I'm going to bring that up to the radial head there. And we are at 24 degrees. Good. All right, so we're going to be checking flexion in the hips. We will get a little bit of flexion in knee while we do this. We're using our greater trochanter as a reference point. We're going to be following the midline of the pelvis with our stationary arm, and then our moving arm will be using the midline of the femur as well as the epicondyle for reference. So, sir, go ahead and flex. As far as you can go. Good. So we are at 55 degrees. All right, so we have extension for the second time on our right leg. And what we're going to do is we're going to be using greater trochanter for reference. We're going to be following the femur and the imaginary line down the pelvis here. Femur is going to be with our non-stationary arm. So sort of go ahead and extend as far as you can. Flex the knee if you need to. Good. I'm going to bring that up, follow it there, and we are at 32 degrees. Good, come back down. All right, so now we're going to be doing abduction using our imaginary line down the superior anterior iliac crest. So you're going to go ahead and abduct out, and then I'm going to follow the femur, go and abduct out as far as you can go. And we are at 35 degrees. Go ahead and come back in. And now we're going to adduct. Remember, we're going to be going that way. As far as you can go. Good. And adduction is at 30 degrees. Good. Come back. All right, so we're going to be perpendicular to the ground with our stationary arm here. We're going to be getting lateral and medial rotation, or internal and external rotation of the hip. So Sarah, we're going to go ahead and start with internal rotation, moving your leg this way, following that tibia, and then we've got ourselves what is that, 42 degrees. Come back down. And now we're going to go external rotation. Go ahead and go. And we are at 40 degrees. Come back. Good. All right, so we're checking flexion of the knee for the second time on the right leg. And what we're going to do is line up our stationary arm here using our greater trochanter for reference. And then we're going to go ahead and use the fibula for our reference point for when we get our flexion. So go ahead and flex it, sir. As far as you can go. Good. Coming up. And we are at 50 degrees. Good. All right, so we're going to be checking our plantar flexion and our dorsal flexion for the second time on the right leg. Using our lateral malleolus here, we're going to be putting our stationary arm against the fibula. Press down like you're pressing on a gas pedal. As far as you can go. Good. And we're looking at 142 degrees. Come back to neutral. 90 degrees there. Good. All right, now pull up as far as you can with your toes. Good. Using our fifth metatarsal to figure out our flexion, and we are at 56 degrees flexion there. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, 56 degrees flexion. All right, so our second attempt with our left arm, making sure that the palms are facing in. We're going to be getting extension at the shoulder. The Acromion process is where we're going to be locked in using our non-movable arm against the area where the humerus would be. So go ahead and extend as far as you can go. And again, we are at 60 degrees. Go ahead and relax. Good. All right, so we're making our second attempt on the left arm for flexion. Lining up at the acromion process, mid-axillary line with our non-moving arm. Sarah, go ahead and flex your arm as far as you can go. twist our moving arm, and we want to finish pointing towards the epicondyles of the humerus, and we are at 170 degrees. Good. Go ahead and go back to neutral. All right, our second attempt on the left arm for abduction. Sarah, go ahead and abduct as far as you can go. And we are at 175 degrees. Go ahead and relax. All right, so our second attempt on the left arm for our internal external rotation or our medial lateral rotation. We're going to be lining our tool up at the olecranon process, and then the arm's going to go ahead and move. Sarah, let's go ahead and go down. Good. So we are at 92 degrees. Come back up to neutral. It's important that we keep the hand in the mid-supinated pronated position. And let's go ahead and have our lateral rotation. So go this way. Good. Coming down. Lateral rotation is at 90 degrees. Good. Come back up. Good. All right, so second attempt on our left arm. We're going to be lining up, making sure we have a pad underneath the distal end of the humerus. We're going to be using the midline of the humerus to put down our non-stationary arm here, or stationary arm, sorry. And we're going to go ahead and flex, as far as you can flex. And we're going to use our radial head for guidance as we get our measurement. And we're at 26 degrees. Good, relax. All right, so we're going to have our second attempt on hip flexion. Same thing as before. We're lining our tool up using the greater trochanter as reference. Non-movable arm is going to be on the imaginary hip line or the pelvic line. Sarah, go ahead and flex. As far as you can go. Using the femoral epicondyles as our reference point and the midline of the femur, and we're at 48 degrees. Good. Relax. All right, so we're looking at our second attempt of extension on the left hip. Greater trochanter for reference, using the imaginary pelvic line to give us our stationary, and then we're going to follow the epicondyle of the femur to give us our reference point for our extension. So Sarah, go ahead and extend. Good. Extension here, and we are looking at about 42 degrees. Good. All right, so now we have our second attempt at abduction of the hip. Patient's laying supine, lining up our tool. We're going to be lining up at the superior anterior crest of the iliac, and then we're going to be non-movable arm towards patella. Patient's going to go ahead and abduct the leg out. Go ahead and abduct. As far as you can go, good. And we are at 35 degrees. Go ahead and come back and do your adduction. All right, go. Good. And we are at 44 degrees. Go ahead and come back. Good. Relax. All right, so now we're checking for the second time our lateral and internal rotation, or our internal external rotation of the hip, perpendicular to the ground with the stationary arm here. Sarah, go ahead and let's check external rotation first. So move your leg this way, tilt towards the inside. Good. And we are at 28 degrees. Come back. Relax. All right, go. As far as you can go. And we're at 30 degrees. Come back down. Good. All right, so we're going to do the second attempt on the knee flexion. We're bringing our tool over, lining it up with the greater trochanter as reference, midline with the non-movable arm. Sarah, go ahead and flex that knee as far as you can go. Movable arms lining up towards the malleolus and the midline of the fibula, and we are at 48 degrees. Good. All right, so second time with our left leg doing our plantar and dorsiflexion. We're going to be using our tool. We're going to be following the fibula on the lateral side, lining up with the lateral malleolus. Sarah, go ahead and push down as far as you can from the 90-degree angle here. Push down. Following that fifth metatarsal, we're going to get our degrees, and we are at 140 degrees. Come back to neutral, and now pull up as far as you can. And we are at 65 degrees. Good. All right, so we're going to be doing the sit and reach test now. What we want to do is we want to use our yardstick, and we're going to get the soles of the feet at 15 inches. So we want to make sure that the feet are lined up with that 15-inch mark. All right, good. And then what we're going to have our patient do is we're going to have them reach forward as far as they can and hold it for 2 seconds, and we'll get our number. So Sarah, you're going to reach forward as far as you can without taking your legs off the ground. Fully extended, and that's as far as you can go.
Yes, I told you it wasn't going to be pretty.
Here you go. As far as you can, we're holding it right about 9 inches. Good.
My hamstrings don't stretch well.
That's not good.
I know it's not good.
Go.
All right, so second attempt for sit and reach. We're going to have the feet lined up at 15 inches and have our patient or our athlete try to reach as far forward as they can. Both hands, they can overlap. Try not to lock the legs. Go as far as you can. And Sarah is actually reaching this time at about 11 and a half inches. Good.
Go.
So thank you. I want to do conclusions to say thank you for watching our video, and if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. We're trying to learn as we move through this program, and I look forward to hearing back from you.